So what a difference a week makes. Back for the Worsbrough Incline Part 2. So I'm here with Wet Dog.
Good afternoon.
So we're just leaving where we left off of the Worsbrough Incline Part 1. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make our way from that bridge down towards Stratford Colliery. That's what it's called, right?
It is indeed.
Yeah. So what we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to be showing a few remains of some old collieries that were around, or what Wet Dog calls pits. It's a Barnsley thing. Some of the remains of some of the pits that were around the Worsbrough Incline. In today's videos, we're going to be rediscovering some collieries that was used part of the line. So following on from where we finished off part 1, we're going to be making our venture down towards a few of the little branches off the line. We're going to be rediscovering the remains of the old Sovereign Colliery, the new Sovereign Colliery, and the branch off to where the West Wentworth and Silkstone Colliery was. Now if you take a look at this map, you can see just here that there was a building which was the old Sovereign Colliery. And if you have a look just here, you can see where the new Sovereign Colliery was. And also if you take a little look at the side-by-side map viewer here, you can see the buildings where we're going to also be exploring some remains of the Stratford Colliery. Anyway, see you when we get out there and enjoy the explore.
Just come across this little structure here, potentially a sandbox. You can see it's made of old railway stone. And you can't really see, it looks like it could have been deeper down, but it's filled in with old rusty leaves, so I'm not exactly sure. So if anyone knows what this is, you can leave a comment in the box. So we are actually on the Worsbrough Incline. However, because I'm doing it on the decline, we could call it the Worsbrough Decline, but you can see how the track would have come up into that 1 in 40 gradient. It's absolutely steep. So you can see why they needed that Garrett locomotive to push the engines up. Found some concrete pillars just up on the side here of the embankment. Just looks like there could be potentially more relics hidden under it. It looks like when they converted the line, they've just literally bulldozed everything and shoveled it all to the side. So just down here would have been the Moor End Pit, or the Moor End Colliery. So just through the trees there are some remains. So we're going to go and have a little explore around the area and see what we can find. So we're going to carry on venturing down there, but before we do, we're going to divert through this public footpath here. And just down here we've got the Moor End Pit, the remains. So we're just going to have a little look at the site and see what we can find.
So just to add, with a little bit of a mix up on the maps, where we're going to be exploring is the old Sovereign Colliery. The Moor End Pit was actually back the other way, which is a pit that we actually missed out. We could have explored that in part 1. So just to avoid confusion, the next one is the old Sovereign Colliery. So stumbling across this website called mapcarter.com brings up the remains of the old Sovereign Colliery, the remains of the new Sovereign Colliery, and the Wentworth and Silkstone Colliery. You can just see them all on here. So this might be having a little worth looking at if you want to find some collieries.
So we're at the site of the Moor End Pit Colliery. Now, back that way is the incline. And there would have been a branch, which I'll show you where I think the location of the branch was, that would have come up here and down to the pit. So you've got the location of the Moor End Pit just to the left of me here. So we're going to have a little look around the site and see what we can find. That goes on. So just looking at these remains here, Now, we're thinking that it could have been part of the loading bay for the goods. There's obviously the railways here, and then I think that's where it ended. You can just see all these concrete bases. I mean, look at that tree, how did that grow and then fall over? You can just see here, these little support beams.
The old Sovereign Colliery was sunk at Dodworth Moor in 1855 by Robert Caldwell Clark. He was the owner of the notorious Husker Pit mine disaster. He had died in 1843 at the age of 46. The family businesses had been passed on to his widow Sarah, who operated with her brother. He was called James Farrer, before he then handed the control of the business affairs to her son. His name was Robert Caldwell Clark, but he took very little interest, so he left the business behind to his uncle. He was then responsible for closing the old Sovereign Colliery, and then he sunk the new Sovereign Colliery between the years of 1861 and 1866.
We're thinking that this thing here was remains of an engine house. We're not too sure. There's no information that actually says what was what, but we are led to believe that this potentially was. And if you just have a look just around this veg here, you can see what looks like potentially a covered up shaft. Now you can see the red bricks just behind the veg, just here, and you can see like how it goes round there, where it looks like it has been vandalised or just bulldozed and filled in. So I wonder if this was an actual shaft. Leave a comment in the box if you do know. So we're thinking that there was potentially a winding engine or system that must have lifted goods up into the shafts just here. You can just see some screws and some remains potentially being on top of here. I'm not sure. And we'll go down here, just a little bit of loose building. You can just see the shaft just there. It looks like it's just literally collapsed. So we just found this part as well. So I was wondering if this was part of a building. It looks like it possibly was. As you can see all the structure holes in there. But it literally looks like you can see the supports just under that tree. And then there's another at the back. It looks like it's all sunk into the ground. So we just come back off the Moor branch and back onto the Worsbrough Incline, or the decline if you want to call it that, because I'm walking down. So we've just come across these structures here. You could tell that they're railway related, so let's go and see what they are. Now, it looks like a culvert that ran under the line. You can just see how it goes. I'm not going down there, but yeah, just a nice little culvert that runs underneath the line. And I wonder if it was something to do with running down towards the pit. You can just see. Actually, no, it doesn't, because it actually turns off to the left. But there's a lot of vegetation just down there, so I'm wondering if it did have something to do with the pits. So if you just have a look here, you can see like an raised embankment that runs to the left. I think this was the junction to the Moor Colliery pit where we've just shown you. So the line would have branched off somewhere around here and then did its way right up there and gone to that pit where we showed you. So I'm just assuming that the junction was around here, because just looking at the way the ground raises, like I say, vegetation is dominating, but I think we're looking at flat ground, and as I saw the embankment going up, it's kind of at a low level here, so I'm assuming that the train would have branched off around here. So as I've just pointed that out about the Moor End pit, just to the right here would have been another little branch to another pit called the New Sovereign Colliery. So it looks like here it's private, but if we just go further down the incline, there is a public way in to have a look at some of the remains of the actual pit. So you would have had here just like a public crossing. You can see the railway posts. So I'm not going to go up there because it's private, which would have crossed over here. You can see the other two on the other side. So just where that junction was, we're just going to make our way through here, so it looks publicly accessible, and you can see a building just in the background up there. Now this was the site of new Sovereign Colliery. You can just see a little bit of it here. So we're going to have a little look around the site and see what remains we can find. So this looks like the remains of like a shaft. Now we seem to believe that there's probably a filled-in shaft just under here. Men would have walked into here, and looking up there, got like some, I think it's winding gear, the remains of where it would have been hanging off. It would have been lowered down, I'm assuming. This is a brilliant find. And just down there, this would have been like a little loop line from the incline where the train would have come through here and loaded the goods somewhere around here, and then it would have made its loop back onto the incline just down there. So we'll go find the junction once we've explored this site.
The new Sovereign Colliery was built between 1861 and 1866. The family interests were later managed by G.H. Teasdale, with the new Sovereign Colliery ceasing operations by 1906. The site was then used as a pumping shaft by the National Coal Board, before it closed indefinitely in the 1950s.
So just having a little view of the shaft, and I'm not going to go in there because it's quite slippy, but you could just see the shaft from the top and how deep it would have probably been. A lot deeper, and that's where the winding gear would have been, lowering down. So just as we head back down onto the Worsbrough line, we just come across this. Now there's a few things we think it might be. Potentially it could have been a loading platform for when the wagons parked up next to the colliery, or it could just be a retaining wall, but it looks to me like it could have been a loading bay, a loading platform, sorry, because as we go down here you can see a little bit more. It looks like earth's grown over. If you do know, please leave a comment in the box of what you think it is, but you can see it's all railway, well, red brick it looks like, and it is all the way down there. It starts to actually deteriorate more as we head further down the loop. So I'm assuming that just here is where the junction onto the colliery was. You can see this old fence post just here. So that's back onto the Worsbrough incline just down there. I think here would have been the junction onto the colliery branch just there. So that was the Moor End Pit Colliery and the new Sovereign Collieries. So it's nice to see that there's some remains behind. Now I believe, so from what I've read, is I think they opened in around 1843 and they closed in 1907. So these pits, they closed long before the actual Worsbrough Incline did. Wow. And that just goes to show that anything can happen. Literally that branch was just falling off. And I was just about to point out actually that just where the tree has just fallen down is where the actual loop went onto the colliery. But you could hear that for ages and it's just literally fallen down. So I thought I'd just add that in. So just here, you have had Wentworth Junction to the Wentworth and Silkstone Colliery, which is just up that way. So this is where a branch would have come off here up towards Wentworth, Silkstone. I'll just have a little look at the track bed as we head up. So just back there is the incline. Then there would have been the branch off to the Moor End pit, and then the branch off to the new Sovereign, and then this would have been the branch off to the Wentworth and Silkstone. You can see the track bed, how it goes up there, and I think as well it's where they used to store the Garrett engine for the incline. So back that way would have been where Silkstone Junction, all the pits and the tunnels that we've explored. So now we're making our way down the incline towards Stratford Colliery. Just found another little concrete base there, which was part of the overhead wiring for the line. Now, what we think is a signal box, or was a signal box, is just back there. You can just see the red bricks behind the trees, and you can see a few remains on the floor. If I just go in, just have a little closer look, I think it was potentially a signal box. You can see there and where it went. So it does look about decent size for the signal box, and I think it was used to the signals for the junction of the collieries. So we found this, and I think it's where the water's pumped from the mines, or was. So there's a shaft further down here which I believe is pumping the water up and through here. Now it's nothing to do with the actual railway, I don't think, but I thought I'd just point it out. So this is the location of the Stratford Colliery, or the Strafford pit. So you can just see how it's all overgrown, but there's remains of a building just there. And there's a little industrial park over there where I think the pit also was as well. You've got the potential remains here of maybe a shaft under, I think, so it's been covered up. And there's a lot of old like railway walling here. You see all the red brick just here, so I'm wondering if this was the remains of the part of the building. So that little outfall I showed you back that way with the water, I believe that this is where the shaft is that the water runs from, just above this wall, and you can just see it up there, and I think that's where the water kind of runs underneath the land and it goes down towards that outfall. So just here you would have had a siding that came across here, and Johnny says that it would have stopped just about down here. So here we've got the mine, so Strafford Mine Water Treatment Scheme. I believe that's where they pump the water down towards the outfall. You can just see it just behind there. So this is Stafford Crossing, where we're going to end the video. So I do hope you all enjoyed part 2 of the Worsbrough Incline, mainly looking at all the collieries that were around the area. So our next part of the line will be from here at Strafford towards Worsborough, which is back that way. All right. So hopefully you all enjoyed that video. Please give Wet Dog a subscription, and myself, and if you want any more videos, please make a suggestion in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much.